guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. This is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Today we're going to jump right into it. I've got women brag about their starter husbands. I was going through some emails. You can always email me at beingthebestbachelor@gmail.com. I can't always reply. I get hundreds, and I think I'm about 15,000 in arrears. But I was going through some because it's been kind of a slow week for new interesting stories. And I said, maybe I'll find some stuff. And somebody sent in a link to this. And it's a couple months old, but I do want to talk about it. It's about women bragging about their starter husbands. But the starter husband's fine for the ladies, especially when they get bailouts. But for the men, especially that are men that are successful, they're either marrying her because they want to keep her, either for it to be a mother to their kids eventually, or maybe as a trophy wife, which is always a mistake, or because they actually love them. And here's a couple of stories I wanted to talk about where this exactly happened. Now, I don't know who this Libby Mugrabi calls her ex a starter husband, and this is a story that came out in February. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this is listen to how easily she walked away, where she was just like, no, it's over. I'm going to go away now, but also I'm going to take a shitload of your money. And not only does the guy, she initiates the divorce, so the guy didn't see it coming. So he gets his heart broken, and he gets his wallet broken, and women are just walking away like, meh. And then we're going to talk about this story here, which is coming from Marie Claire, but it's the starter husband. And they're like, you never buy a car without test driving it first, right? So why settle into a lifelong marriage before trying one on for size? I might even agree with that, except that the women get to leave with cash and prizes, and often breaking the men's hearts. They also get to leave with the kids and child support most of the time. Anyway, in this story here, this Libby Mugrabi leaves David Mugrabi, and she called him a starter husband. They say, talk about a short squeeze, fresh off her multi-million-dollar divorce. And there it is right there.
Ding, ding, ding. What do we have for her, Johnny?
That's how they win. They know this is going to happen, so she can call it a starter marriage. And what does she leave with? Cash and prizes. And women are now saying, hey, marry first for the money, second time for love. So they say, fresh off her multi-million-dollar divorce from art collecting scion David Mugrabi, Libby Mugrabi says, of any future relationships, I need a tall guy, and has called her loaded ex in a new interview a starter husband. Now, she's maybe, let's call it 2, because a lot of this is hair. We'll call it 2, maybe 3 inches. So it's not like she's towering over this guy, and you don't even know. She might have not been in flats. She might have even had a couple inch heels on at the time. But she married him. She was with him. So why did she bother with that? Well, Libby reportedly saw $100 million in the split and walked away very happy with the deal, while also getting a collection of blue chip artwork and multiple homes. Well, gee, I wonder why she married a guy maybe she wasn't that attracted to. But here's the thing, she's not by any means a supermodel, so I'm guessing this guy probably was like, hey, you know what? I'm not God's gift to women, but I'm successful, and I'm attracted to her, and I like her, and I'll marry her. And she just straight out ditched on him. It's not like this is some 23-year-old super blonde or super model that's like a blonde or brunette or whatever. I guess that doesn't really matter. Where he's like, it's a little cash for prizes, but I get the prizes and I'm okay with that. No, I think this guy was actually into it for the relationship, and she just like, nah, I'm going to take you for what you have. Because she starts insulting him basically right off the get-go. She says, it's sad. It's a little sad. Divorce is a death, and it's not fun for anybody, except for her walking away with $100 million that she didn't ever earn or toil for. Over the summer, Libby was seen on the arm of child star turned Bitcoin billionaire turned independent presidential hopeful Brock Pierce in Manhattan. In the Hamptons and L.A., they've both described the relationship as friendly, but Libby told Andon of the Liaison, he was a little bit short for me. It's not for me. I had to wear flats. I was hunching over. I couldn't stand up straight. So I don't know who this other person is she's talking about. He appears to be this guy right here. And again, he's not necessarily any looker or anything, but what is he? He's very rich and very successful. But she says he's too short for her. He's too short for her. But let's go back here to it's a dating profile of the day. Oopsie. I got a couple dating profiles today I'm going to do over on betterbachelor.locals.com. So if you're not over there, join me. It's free, but you get all the fun stuff. But again, look at her. It's not like she's this amazing capture either, but here she's walking around taking this guy for $100 million, going out with some other guy that's also very successful and quite rich, and she's like, "Nah, he's not good enough for me." What is she worth? She's worth this plus all the money she took from David Mugabe. But all of a sudden now she's got value, you see, because she didn't earn it. She just took it from him. And now she's like, "Oh, I'm a very important, powerful, rich woman." Why? Oh, because I got it from my ex, my starter husband. She added that my ex-husband was short. I don't know how I ended up again with a man that was at my height or shorter, but I did. And I will not go out with a short man again. I couldn't wear heels. It worked in the summer. I'd go shoeless, but when the fall came, I need a tall guy. I don't know how I ended up with a man that was my height or shorter. It's because he was friggin' rich, and you knew it, and you married him, and then you divorced him, and then you ran with the cash and prizes. We know exactly why she ended up with him. Why she ended up talking to this other guy. Well, he's a star-turned Bitcoin billionaire. How is it she's just happens to be talking to that? Now, maybe she doesn't date him, but she's still hanging out with him because now she's worth $100 million of another guy's money. So now she thinks, well, this is what I deserve. I deserve the best. I deserve a tall guy. I deserve a good-looking guy. I deserve a rich guy. And you've earned none of it. None of it. She looked kind of skeletorish to me for some reason. There's something kind of creepy about her. And she calls her ex a starter husband and adds today, "I'm single and I insist on being single." Well, I'm sure you do. You have all the money now. You have $100 million worth of stuff and multiple homes. Of course you want to be single now. But again, see, she's fine saying this is a starter husband because all it did is it started her off on an amazing life. What did it do for him? It completely wrecked him. I mean, it didn't completely wreck him, let's be honest. But I mean, it probably took half his money away, which for most men, especially men that want to be powerful and rich, that's kind of wrecking them. Anyway, so here's a woman that basically just bailed on him. And she's even wrestling with him over a $500,000 Keith Haring sculpture. None of this was hers. None of it. And I don't know how long they were married for. But I mean, she's just basically raking him. Let me see what this says. They settle a bitter divorce. Oh, and the divorce was inspired by Gwyneth Paltrow. Oh, great. And there's an article written on this. They literally call it the starter husband. This just guy, and this is why I tell guys, guys that are like, oh, just, find women when they're young and they've only had a partner or two and they haven't, don't have the high body counts, and then you can marry them. Then they're traditional. Then they're conservative. Maybe so. Maybe I know for a fact there are great women out there. But if you get it wrong, if you make one choice wrong or you read the room wrong and she decides to leave with the cash and prizes, you're screwed. And here's the thing. If you're worth $100 million and you lose $50 million, okay, with that $50 million, you'll be back up to $100 million pretty quickly if you invest it well and know what you're doing, which many of these men do. But if you're a guy that's maybe only worth, I don't know, you got a couple $100,000 house, maybe you got 2 cars, 2 kids, and the wife decides to bounce, and you have to sell the house to give her half of the value of it, and she takes the kids for the child support, and you have to give her half of your savings. I know guys that have had to cash out their retirement savings to give her half and then put it back into the retirement. Can you imagine being in your 40s or 50s and having half of everything gone and you on the hook for child support for the next 10, 15, whatever years? It's crushing. And these women are just like, no, it's like a rental car. Just try it, ladies, and if you don't like it, but see, if they really felt that way, they'd walk away without the cash and prizes, but that's not always how it works. But I wanted to read this story because this is a story about a woman named Andy and a guy named, is it Tucker, I think it is? And I want you to hear how she describes how Tucker felt about we're just trying it out. So anyway, they say, I'm really not ready to be committed like this. That's what Andy said to Tucker, her husband of 11 months, after she came home from a crazy work day 2 years ago with an overwhelming urge to quit her marriage. Today, right now, this just isn't for me. After 11 months, she was ready to bail on the guy. Says she spoke stoically, no tears, no histrionics. She had been imagining this moment since she moved out of their condo a few months earlier, but she wanted to ease him into the inevitable. A few months earlier, so 11, 10, 9, 8, 7 months she was in it, and then she's like, I got to go. And wait till you hear what he did wrong, guys, because it's awful. It is truly horrible. To somehow tiptoe her way through the minefield of Tucker's emotions. But now, having scored a direct hit with those crushing words, she watched Tucker crumple against the dining room table. I don't understand, he said over and over. We're married. See, Tucker sounds like a traditional guy that thought when you say I do, you do. And then you're together, thick and thin, tough and good, bad and good, whatever. But that's not how it is anymore. As a matter of fact, nothing can even change since you got married. And she might just be like, I didn't mean to do this. But it's a starter marriage. It's okay. And I had a third article. I didn't pull it up, but it's like starter marriages is now like dating, and having kids is the new marriage, say women. Well, of course they do. But the starter marriage is like dating, except again, they get to oftentimes leave with cash and prizes. So now she gets married for a year or two, whatever the laws say. She gets to leave with cash and prizes in many cases. So what is it? It's like leveling up. It's like a free level up in a video game. It's like a bonus. She's like, well, I dated this guy for a year. Well, actually, we were married for a year. But it was just like we were dating, except I also took him for lots of money. That's the way women are thinking now. Now, again, not all women, but man, you better vet the women that you're dating if you're going to do this, because I'm telling you. So anyway, he crumpled against the dining room table. I don't understand. We're married. She says, look, we can do this now, or we can do this in 5 years from now when it's a lot messier. And he said, softening her voice, I want a divorce. The guy didn't really do anything to deserve this, she thought, looking at Tucker's ashen face. He must be thinking I'm a monster. Yes, you are correct. You are a friggin' monster. You shouldn't have said yes to him in the first place. She said, they say, watching her husband shuffle to the door of her temporary apartment, Andy felt awful, but mostly she felt unbelievably relieved. So she just crushed this guy's dreams of having a wife and a family and everything else. And she's like, I felt awful, but mostly I feel really relieved. She's like, I was married for like 2 seconds. She said it was literally an entry-level marriage. And yet Andy is only articulating what 1 in 5 women under the age of 30 who get divorced every year must think. So it's 20% of women just in their 20s alone that are getting married and bailing real quick. And then when you look at the other, 60% that are, kind of promiscuous and making bad life choices. I don't have the graphic here, and I'm going to be doing a book review. I'm going to be doing a book review on Aaron Clary's new book, The Menu. And if you guys haven't checked it out, check it out. It's literally a book written for single men today about finances and choices in life and stuff like that. And I have it on audiobook. I'm working my way through it, and I like Aaron's work. But he wrote a book that is all about the statistics of finding a woman that is stable, that won't divorce you, that doesn't have weird issues, that's not a feminist, that all these other things. And I think it boiled down, and swiping on Tinder and all these other stats, and it boiled down to like you have a 0.5% chance now to have a successful marriage and keep the kids and everything go well for you. And now you're adding 1 in 5 women under 30? But within months of promising to love and honor and cherish Tucker forever, she knew she had made a big mistake. The problem? He was boring. That's it. Wholly uncomplicated, as she puts it. So because they didn't fight, because he was not a super challenge, he wasn't the ultra bad boy, he wasn't doing all the craziness, he was just, hey, I work, I come home, I pay the bills, I'm a good husband, I'll be a good dad someday, I'm steady Freddy, I'm a good guy. She's like, he's boring. Kind of uncomplicated. She says the kind of guy who reads Tom Clancy books on the couch and watches Adam Sandler movies while dreaming of a white picket fences. Oh my God, the horror. What an evil, awful man. Good thing she ran for her life. She says the idea of spending my life with someone like that seems stifling. finally just got to me that he was so sunny. Oh, he was so sunny. He was so happy. Laissez-faire. Just, whatever. Life goes on. Sunny, happy, boring. And she says, about the divorce? Oh my God, it was so easy. I realized I can get out of this and he can get out of this and we can just get on with our lives. They sold the condo and split the profits, and that was that. So there you go. Now, dude had to sell his, I don't know if it was his or theirs together, but now he's got to move whether he wants to or not. And she felt bad about hurting his feelings, but she never doubted her decision. I raised an eyebrow. Never, she repeats. And there's a lot more to read to this, but I don't need to because you guys are getting the gist of this stuff. That for her, for a man, it was his dream. It's a big deal as a man to ask a woman to marry you. And I have to presume because I actually did not propose to either one of my ex-wives. They both asked me. Oops. I guess I was a sucker for that one. I've never actually done a proposal, done anything fancy like that. But, man, the guys are sweating. They're nervous. They know what a commitment is. They go through a lot of thought process, getting the exact ring. How am I going to do the occasion? Most men, not all men. And she says yes, and you're on cloud nine, and you're thinking about your plans and your future, and everything is going to go great. And then as you're contemplating having a family, growing the family, having the house on the hill, or the condo in this case, she's looking for her way to cut and run. And in this case, yeah, it's better to do it sooner rather than later after you have the kids and everything else, but this crushed his world. He never saw it coming. And here's another case where we talk about 80% of divorces are filed by women, and there's a 60% divorce rate. So at any moment when you think things are okay, or maybe just things are kind of drying up in the bedroom a little bit, there's a good chance she's been contemplating for a long time to bounce. And in many of those cases, she's already found her next dude to bounce with. And she's just staying with you until she can cut the ties. So, guys, those of you that are, because there's a couple of mindsets today. A lot of guys are like, I'm just going to have my fun with women, stay casual. Other guys are like, yeah, I'll get in a serious relationship with them. I'll just make sure to check the laws and make sure that I don't get in any trouble where the government can step in and harm me. And then there are guys like, I've met a great and wonderful woman, and I'd like to get involved with her, and I think she's really neat. And again, that's fine. But you, as a man, you have to be, there's always this emotional reserve. You better hold back. You better not ever get to where you're like 100% all in, no matter what. I'd take a bullet for her. Like it's all, you better keep a little gasoline in the tank. Because there's a good chance today that she may come and just surprise you at some moment and be like, I'm tapping out and you never saw it coming, and I'm going to crush your dreams and your future. Also sell your condo. I'm going to take half your stuff. Or in the other case, I'm going to fight you tooth and nail for every $100,000 I can get out of you. And then I'm going to insult you on the way out the door and wonder why I ever married you because you're short, as I have $100 million in my pocket or whatever it was. You guys get the point. But the insulting men, no problems. That is socially acceptable. Putting them down in movies, commercials, that's fine. Start her husband, take him for stuff, no problem. He worked too much and wasn't there for you, so you cheated, that's fine. He was there too much and he didn't work enough because, and he was always around the house suffocating you, that's fine. Leave him. Like they're finding a way to make everything a man's fault. And the ramifications, I don't think women understand what's going to happen. Because eventually enough men are going to just casually date, just kind of do the hookup thing. And as a matter of fact, here's a graphic. Let me pull up this graphic. I had it I was going to do this in another video, but it works here too. Here's a 30-year-old gender male. He's been on Tinder for 3 years, 146 days. Now, this is Tinder Insights. And from my understanding, you link your Tinder account with this, and it allows them to scrape the data, and they collect when you talk about meetup times and dating and anytime the word of like sex and other things. And they have it boiled down. I mean, Facebook now knows when you go to the bathroom based on your swipe settings and when you pick up your phone. And if they can do that, they can figure out when people have hooked up because There's a lot of these where people have said, yes, this actually relates quite closely. But here's a guy that had, he swiped 31,000 times. He swiped left 24,000 times, and he only swiped right 6,000 times. This is a guy that has, he's being very picky. I mean, he's picking the top probably at 20% of women. He's picked the top 20% of women. Of that, he got 1,100 matches, 5,000 no matches. So of what he selected on his right swipes, he got messaged back maybe 15% of the time. Out of that, half of them, he got chats. That's high. These are really high numbers for a dude. So of those chats, 60 of them were dates, and 921 never met. So that's not great odds right there. But out of 60% of the dates, says he hooked up 50 times and he had a relationship once. Now, I grabbed this off of Reddit, and he was saying, like, yeah, this is kind of an interesting thing. It seems pretty accurate, tall, athletic, good looking. And here he is, casual hookups, 50 times, casual. Here's a single man. His age, 30 years old. Do you think he's going to marry? Do you think he's going to get sucked into this? Or is he just going to keep doing this for as long as he can? And what this implies right here, there's also 50 women that this one dude has been with in 3 years. So here's a guy that's hooking up with more than one woman a month. Do you think he's, and obviously, he was attractive. He probably did well for himself. Do you think he's settling down anytime soon? Why? He's getting a hell of a lot of fun and dates and having a good time and fooling around with a bunch of women. Do you think he's going to get married? No. So these women are just going to get used and tossed away. And then men end up being single and unhappy. Women end up being used and single and unhappy. And again, the only guys that are really winning out of all this is this type of guy. The guy that's the top 10, 20%er that has a good game. He's getting all the women. And I think I don't know if I saved this video. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to throw this in on this video too. I was going to do this in another whole separate video, but I'm going to throw this in here too. Because this is all, like a lot of this stuff that I'm going to be talking about here recently all relates to each other. Let me put the playback speed at 1.5 times, because otherwise YouTube tries to get me. This is a show from Bill Maher just September 9th, so like 2-3 days ago. And he's talking to Scott Galloway and Matt Welch. And they're talking about the factors driving young American men towards toxicity. I'm going to play a little bit of this. I'll edit out anything that does, because I'm not doing this live, so I'll edit out anything that's not relevant here.
We're trying to get at the root cause. Why are men in such crisis? I mean, the stats are like only 40% go to college, so they're losing out to women there in a big way. And women with degrees don't marry men who don't have degrees. So, like, great, you'll be lonely forever, aren't you? Why are you cheering that?
Let me just, again, those of you that complain, go to Bill Maher's channel and watch this if you want to just watch the clip all the way through. I have to break it up because they hit me with copyright. That's why I play it at 1.5 times speed. I can do other content creators, no problem. When you start going after national shows, they're very tight on copyright and they'll hit me. So that's why I do this stuff. But I want to break it up here because, again, you can hear he's like, women are graduating 50%, 10% more than men. And women won't date down, and the women are like, yeah, you slay queen. He's like, you're going to be single. Welcome to being single, dummies. And Bill's a pretty left-leaning individual, and even he's seeing this now. We used to be called anti-SJW and all these other things, manosphere and all this other stuff. But the truth is, this is leaking everywhere. Like, this is all throughout society. Men are noticing this.
Because I was reading recently, Tinder, 2-to-1 male to female. What?
No, it's just a startling statistic. Yeah.
Except when you go on it, it weeds out the people who aren't the best looking, I think, because it used to be go to a bar. Okay, maybe it was pot luck, but you have to be able to learn to 100%. Talk to a woman. I don't think they had to talk to a woman anymore because it's just on the phone. It's just like, what's up? And then, what's up, and send a picture of your penis. Like, that's going to work.
Sometimes.
See, and again, we're still getting there. Bill's being a bit of a smart ass here because I get, some say he's a comedian. I haven't found too much of his rhetoric recently being a comedian. But and he's definitely like feminist and left-leaning on a lot of things. But the point that he's making is, number one, yes, a lot of men don't know how to communicate, and they are having that problem. And the dating apps don't help because you're not even given a chance to talk. And the guy that does get the match that says what's up or sends the pic, he's a top 10 or 20%er. He's not an average everyday guy that just wants to have a conversation with a girl. The guys that are acting poorly are, again, the top 10 and 20%ers because they can act poorly, because they have choices. And if he says what's up and sends a pic and says, hey, you want to come over and do XYZ with me, and the girl's like, ew, no, you're a pig. He's like, that's all right. I got 18 more or 20 more matches just in the last couple of days. I'll hit them up. Bye. And he can be toxic, and he can be like that because, again, the world is his oyster. But what about the average everyday guy?
Simply put, it's a disaster. Whenever technology comes into an industry, it consolidates it. Mating has been consolidated in the worst way. 50 men on Tinder, 50 women. 46 of the women show all of their attention to just 4 men, leaving 46 men pursuing just 4 women. We have huge mating inequality. And here's the problem. When people don't get together and there's no pheromones and there's no vibe, women, and we don't like to say this on the left, primarily try and make very quick assumptions about this individual's ability to garner resources in the future. So what you have is this concentration of interest, and you're ending up with Porsche polygamy, where 10% of the men get 90% of the attention, which does not lead to good behavior or form long-term relationships. Online dating is disastrous for mating and for men. It's terrible.
So I'll kind of leave it there. And again, I was going to do this in another whole overview, but I wanted to chop it up for this one just because I think what he says is valid. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but when he's saying, look, you get 50 women and 50 men in a normal room, what happens is 1 woman, 1 man, they'll pair off, and number 10. I did a video on this on a ranking dating thing. But a 10 will meet it with a 10 or a 9, either way. And then 8s and 7s will get together, and 6s and 6s and 5s and 5s and 4s. And it kind of works itself out where every man ends up with a woman that's more or less equal to their social status, their looks, everything else. But where we are today now is it's not just a 1-on-1 pairing off. Now it can be a 4-on-1, an 8-on-1, a 10-on-1. And so what's happening is, as he just said, because he knows some of these statistics as well. I mean, I've found similar. What's happening today now is that 46 women will go after 4 men. And those 4 men will sleep with them, and will use them, and will treat them horribly, and will ghost them, and will be the guys that say, yo, what's up? Here's a pic. You want to come do this? And a woman's like, no. He's like, all right, well, there's only 4 of us, and there's 46 of you. So that's almost 12 each one of us. I can kind of be a jerk and just cycle through because it's going to happen for me. And so what that's doing is that's leaving men sad. It's leaving men unhappy. It's leaving men that wanted a family, that wanted a life, that wanted dating, that wanted something other than just being a bachelor their whole life. It leaves them kind of in a bad place, and they make bad decisions based on that. And so when you end up like this guy right here, and I think this was, again, a poor decision to get married, and you talk about this one, the starter husband with Tucker and Abby, what they're really saying is these are guys that are like, I always wanted a marriage. I always wanted a family. I always wanted kids. I wanted the house on the hill. I want a peaceful life. I want the Leave It to Beaver dream where I come home and the wife's waiting there. Dog's got the paper in the mouth, slippers next to the front door. The wife hands you the pipe and maybe a scotch on the rocks. And here, honey, we give you a little back massage. Dinner's in the oven, almost ready. You relax and thank you for a hard day of work. You read the paper. Dinner will be ready in half an hour. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. And as much as I even thought like this, when I was a 20 or 25-year-old kid, my dad told me kind of the way I should be. Find a family, have a wife, be dedicated, be a good person to them, make sure they have no wants or needs, and have happily ever after. It's not like that anymore. Times have changed. And I'm not trying to drill out of your head that don't get married. You will not ever meet a good woman. It will not happen for you. It's not. I don't want to do that to anybody because I still have friends that are happily married. I do, and many of them have been married for 10, 15, 20 years. My parents, my grandparents, but you have to also remember that nowadays with the statistics, they're going to use you. They may take it from you. You always have to have that in the back of your head. And again, I think men get punished for this. I think women get punished for this because the women that are good women that want to be a good wife and a good mother and a good everything else, they get punished because a lot of guys are like, hey, you know what? I've seen this happen too much. And you might be a good person, but you also might be lying. And I'm too scared to take the risk. I'm too scared to lose resources. I'm too scared that you'll take the kids from me someday. And men are also learning that women will say, oh, I'd never do that to you. But you know something? No woman ever is going to say, would you marry me? I mean, someday I'm going to leave you and take rake you over the coals and take the kids away from you for extra child support. But would you marry me? Every single man would say no. And even in the beginning, I think a lot of times women are like, oh, this is definitely what I want, but they're changing their minds. And if it was a 50-50 split where you could walk apart, she keeps what's hers, you keep what's yours, and based on the amount of income is like if you make 80% of the income and she makes 20%, you keep 80% of the assets, she keeps 20%. But we don't do that. Now it's like, oh, well, we've got to find a way to make her get as much or more than what he actually has in the relationship. So the starter husband and the use them and lose them and ditch them aside and take them for what they're worth. And there's so many examples that I have, and I can't even hit them all. Like this is from Reddit. Diablo is a group for women and LGHD TV men focused on manipulating life's truths to our advantage. And there's 10,000 members. It's not a lot, but that's still a lot. I mean, that's still a good sizable amount of people. And this was a post. That's thank you for my viewer that emailed this in. And you were good to take a screenshot of this because I did follow the link you sent and the user deleted it because they got some pushback. But here's what the user that posted this said. How to maintain simps and make them think they'll have a chance. And she's like, I got a couple of simps, but I do have a boyfriend also, and I'm stone cold towards them. And they kind of keep sexting me, and how do I keep them attached to me? And how do they keep getting things from them? Literally, and this is what she says, so they can be loyal and think they have a chance, but not to the extent of turning conversation in a sexual way. So she's like, I want them to think they have a chance, so they'll keep taking me out to dinner and buying me drinks and treating me well and giving me birthday presents, but also I have a boyfriend and also I want to just use them. This is the mindset that is just traveling all through society. And see, if you say anything about it, they'll remove your channel or they'll shut you down or they'll demonetize you or they'll say you're, I don't know, an incel or something else, and they get rid of you just for looking out for your own back. But the reason why I'm so angry over the starter marriage stuff is because it's kind of like, well, I mean, it's no big deal. Yeah, I broke his heart, and yeah, he thought we were going to have a life together. And yeah, I took half his money, but oh well. And in the meantime, it leaves the man crushed. It leaves him broke. It leaves him hurting. And if you have kids along the way, it leaves them leaving kids. When this mentality is what's going in through society, how stupid do you have to be to fall for it?